Hello and welcome to Run Steve Run. It's a bit of a different one today. There's no park run, instead a race up a bloody big hill and back down the other side. Let's get going and I'll tell you a little bit about the race and my plan for it. And if you look at the screen in the bottom left, you'll see me in the black with white cap. There I am, waving to my wife as I run off through the picturesque grounds of Culzean Castle Country Park on the west coast of Scotland. It's an impressive big castle, complete with a fountain, castle gardens, an orangery and several cannons dotted about the place. The second floor of the castle has a luxury 6-bedroom apartment that once belonged to American President Dwight D. Eisenhower, but is now available for rent on TripAdvisor. It's not the only American with accommodation available at this part of Scotland, but I'd say Eisenhower's is the most impressive. Although Trump does have better hair, so at least that's something. I have always wondered why Trump's hair looks like it's made for a material that lies somewhere between candy floss and loft insulation. If you know the answer to that, why don't you put it in the comments, and while you're there, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell and make it rain with likes. Today I'm running a 5k trail race that has got a mix of all different terrain types, starting with these ash paths, then onto some road, then I hit the muddy trails and gravel paths. If you look at the map, you'll see that it's just a single loop, climbing an intimidating 75 metres in the first half and then descending 75 metres back to the start. There's a few races on at Culzean today, all happening at the same time, where the courses split off and rejoin each other throughout, meaning I'll have literally no clue what position I'm in, because the people you see around me may or may not be in my race. I'm sure that'll not get confusing at all. Now, thinking about my goals for this week, I've told my colleague and running pal Kevin that I reckon I can get my first ever top 10 finish, so failing to do that could mean some mild sarcasm at work. Given that this is my first trail event and the biggest hill I've ever raced up, setting a pace target is a bit of a massive guess, but sub 25 was a nice round number, so I'll have one eye on that as I set off at the start. If I do want to have any chance of meeting either of those targets, I'll need to pace things much better than I did last week at Victoria Park, where I blasted out the gates like a lunatic and achieved a new max heart rate record of 200 beats per minute with 2k left to go. I believe that's what experts call a suboptimal race strategy. This week I'm definitely not doing that again, so my strategy is to religiously keep my heart rate under 180 beats per minute all the way up the hill before letting loose on the downhill toward the finish. As you can see, we've left the ash path behind and we're now onto the road. This is one of the steepest bit and one of the bits I wasn't looking forward to. It's one of the bits I was making sure to keep my heart rate nice and low. Somebody's had their Weetabix this morning. He's bounding off up that hill, but I will not be lured into chasing him. Still at 175 heart rate, and I'm going to try and keep it like that. And that's the first kilometre done, and as you can see I'm maintaining my heart rate nicely in the 170s, so spot on for my game plan so far, and I'm delighted to see my watch show a split of just over 5 minutes per kilometre. Slightly behind the flat 5 target that I'd given myself, but I have climbed around the first 30 metres of that 75 metre hill, so that's a great start. Just ahead though, I can see where the road finishes and the trail begins. I wonder how much this rough terrain will slow me down. It is quite muddy here, but that's why I've brought my Saucony Peregrine 14s. I've ran in these a few times now and I have to say I'm really enjoying them. The first time I wore them, they did chafe a wee bit, but now they're very comfy and I feel super stable in them. As I enter the trail there, my heart rate did begin to spike a little, but I am keeping an eye on it and I instantly correct and slow down a bit to bring myself back under 180, which is uncharacteristically mature running. Well done me. And as we approach the end of the first part of the trail, we reach the end of the second kilometre, and I've now settled into a nice rhythm. The second kilometre definitely felt steeper than the first, mainly because the terrain was mud and tree roots rather than road and ash path, but it still felt really controlled, finishing the second kilometre in 5 minutes 46. It does put me behind schedule for my sub 25, but right now I'm not thinking about that. I'm purely focused on maintaining 180 beats per minute. So focused, in fact, that it was around this point that I suddenly realised I'm 2k in. Most of the hard work's done and I'll soon be at the top. And I feel great. In fact, I felt really great, like I'd just warmed up. I didn't expect to feel this good, but I'll take it. And as I hit another wee bit of trail, I have to say, I'm absolutely loving the change in terrain throughout this race. Just going from road to trail to gravel path keeps things really fresh, and I never really know what's coming next, so everything's constantly changing. Sometimes in a road race it can get quite monotonous, but this is absolutely far from that. Keeping my heart rate in check at the moment. 182, 183, things are going well. At this point I just felt really excited to get to the top and let loose. It will not be far now though. And as I reach the top of the hill, that is me now at the halfway point, and I have to say everything's gone perfectly to plan so far. I'm still feeling great, the heart rate is under control, and I cannot wait to start squeezing the pace, see what speed I've got in my legs. I'm not going to blast off though and do anything silly. I'm just going to start to let gravity assist kick in, carry me down the hill, stick to the 180s for a wee bit, but just don't worry too much about the heart rate. Let's start getting some overtakes now. Now back onto muddy tracks, and this is where my trail shoes pay for themselves. It's not just the grip that helps, it's the confidence they give to run through any rough or muddy patch and not have to back off the pace or worry about slipping. Now coming through to gain the places back that I lost during my tempered uphill on the road. I particularly enjoyed this overtake as I swung round the outside in full runner's high mode, just loving life. Scott here always says, sometimes you just wake up with Mo Farah's legs on, and that is exactly how I feel right now. I feel invincible. Glad to see I've quickly caught up in another couple of runners here. Heart rate is still not going crazy, but the pace is certainly heated up as I post my first sub 5 minute kilometre with a third kilometre of 4:55. Given that half of that was uphill, it's really good going, and I'm going to continue to surge forward in an attempt to overtake these other two lads just ahead. Unfortunately, I won't quite get there though, as we're now approaching a split point where these runners will go left and I will continue my descent down to the right. And 4 kilometres done and still powering down the hill, overtaking more runners, whilst being totally confused as to whether they're in my race or not. Now approaching 190s for the heart rate. At this point though, I'm actually a wee bit past the 4th kilometre, so I'm keeping nothing back, and I've been pushing hard all the way down the hill. That's reflected in the fact that I finished the 4th kilometre in a very sharp 4 minutes and 25 seconds. That's bringing me very close to being back on track for a sub 25, and a good last kilometre could well take me down into the mid 24s. Plenty of runners here to pass, but then out of nowhere, an orange arrow beckons me off to the right, and suddenly, and very strangely, I'm completely by myself. Now that's never happened to me in a park run or any race before where there's no runners run about me, and I start to think, maybe I've humped it and went completely the wrong way. A few metres down the road though, I saw another orange arrow, and that confirmed that this was in fact the right way. and I've not got long left to go. The only thing to do now is absolutely gun it, give it the beans, and enjoy the trail and the sea view as it begins to emerge through the trees. My watch is now at 4.92 kilometres and there is a clearing ahead, which can only mean one thing. It's time to give it absolutely everything I've got left. Let's watch as I cross the finish line. And I finished the run in a time of 24 minutes and 22 seconds, which means I somehow, unbelievably, finished third. Not only that, but I won my age category. I can honestly say the word shocked does not cover it. That said, I know what you're thinking. Where the bloody hell is everybody? Well, as it turns out, most of the supporters that were here were for folk running the 10k and half marathon, so they've all pissed off to the cafe for a hot chocolate while the run was happening, and because I was third, there were only 2 other runners here. Madness. At the time, I didn't have a clue that I'd hit the podium, so I was very confused, and it wasn't until I was sitting in a cafe in Ayr about 3 hours later that I saw the results online and realised, regardless, I'm over the moon. If I told Smoky Joe Stephen for years ago that I'd be third in a trail race, aged 39, he would have struggled to think that that's possible, but he'd probably be pretty bloody proud of me too. Even if I did get beat by a wee lassie. Well, that's it for this week. Next week I'll hopefully be taking another crack at my 5k PB and definitely be attempting to take one of Scott Hare's course records. Will I manage to do it, or will I return to my usual gone out too fast and dying in my arse? You can find out next time on One Steve Run.